Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Robyn MacKillop with Get That GED. And today we're working on a couple of language arts items and maps for social studies. So we'll get going on this. For anyone who was trying to get in and can't, I apologize. I'm not sure what the glitch is, but we'll figure it out. And at least I'll have the recording for you. So let me switch my screen and we'll get going. All right. So we're going to start with social studies. And this is a 2-paragraph story with one question. Generally speaking, you'll have more than one question per reading in language arts on the GED test. I don't love it when they give you a bunch of stuff to read and then one question. It happens, but it's not great. So we're going to start by reading the question. Which detail best supports the idea that disrupting the body's circadian rhythm can have a negative effect on a person's health? So this means we have to read. There's no shortcutting this one. So let's go up and take a look at this. We live in an increasingly 24/7 society with work, family, and social pressures all chipping away at our sleep. Couple this with long work hours, shift work, chronic caffeine use, and exposure to the glow of computer screens late into the night, and it may be much more than sleep that suffers. We may be throwing off the body clock or circadian rhythm and its control of hundreds of body processes that keep us healthy and feeling well. While much is yet to be learned, there's growing evidence that a misaligned body clock can contribute not only to sleep problems, but increased risk of developing diabetes, depression, obesity, and even some forms of cancer. For the last 60 years, neuroscientists have been studying the role of light in regulating the body's circadian rhythm. Since the early days of studying sleep in caves and underground laboratories, we've been able to determine that light exposure is a great circadian regulator. Most of us naturally have a body rhythm a little longer than 24 hours, and light is the major environmental time cue that resets the clock in our brains each day so we remain synchronized with that 24-hour day. In turn, the clock regulates our sleep and wake cycles, our mood, alertness, and performance patterns, hormones, heart rate, and many other functions. So basically, the main idea is sleep's pretty important, and we operate well under a circadian rhythm. However, the question isn't asking that. The question wants to know which of these details best supports the idea that disrupting the body's circadian rhythm can have a negative effect on a person's health. So we're looking for something that affects their health. We live in a world in which work, family, and social pressure chip away at our sleep. Absolutely true. Does it pertain to a person's health?
It's gonna be A.
So does A pertain directly to a person's health? Let's put a maybe on A and go to B. A misaligned body clock can increase the risk of developing diabetes, depression, obesity, and cancer. Does that have a correlation to a person's health? And we'll look at C. Chronic caffeine use interferes with the body's ability to regulate the circadian rhythm. Does that have to do with a person's health? And long work hours and shift work can disrupt sleep patterns. Does that directly affect a person's health? So all 4 of these are true. This is not an easy one because A, B, C, and D were all true. They were talked about up here, all 4 of them. So what you have to do is you have to look for the clue in the question, and that is this right here. Which one of these most specifically points to health issues?
Choice B.
Yes. And this is what they do in GED. Christine, you nailed it. It'll be a single word in the question that will point you to the best answer. It's not great when you have several answers that are true, because then you're forced to pick which one is the best. And that happened here. They talked about this in the writing. They talked about this. They talked about this. They talked about this. So the health word is the one that leads you to the diseases.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yep.
And GED loves to do that to you. All right, let's do another short one, and we'll do a longer one. And again, this is just a couple paragraphs, one question. The question is, what sentence best summarizes the new study's conclusion on false memories? So we're going to have to read, because this doesn't lead us to an answer. And when their readings are short, they're not so bad. The longer readings, you want to avoid having to read the whole thing if you can. All right. Psychological research has shown various ways false memories are created, such as through the power of suggestion or through vivid imagination. Now, scientists studying imagination have found that people who watch a video of someone else doing a simple action often don't remember and thought they had done it themselves when asked about it 2 weeks later. Is that enough for us to answer? Well, we're looking for the study's conclusion, and we weren't sure that was the study itself. So let's see if they talk about a conclusion. This is a completely new type of false memory. Now look at this. Everything from here to here is about the particular guy who said that sentence. You don't need any of this information right here. They gave you a whole paragraph of useless words. This is a false memory from just observing someone. So let's go back down to the question. That might be enough.
Choice B, I think.
Yes. Well, no, actually, they did conclude. So that's absolutely true, but there's one that's a little bit better. And it came from right here. Can I get that? Let me see if I can get that whole thing on here. Be a lot easier to read if you can see all of it. So, and again, this is one of those where all of these are true. You have to pick the best true.
I think the best answer is choice B.
Researchers and psychologists have concluded a new study on false memories. So this one is actually not the best answer, because what summarizes the conclusion? This is absolutely true. They concluded, they're done with the study. But the question wants to know which one summarizes that study. And the clue is up here. False memories are created through the power of suggestion or vivid imagination. Stephanie, you nailed it. Powers of suggestion and imagination create false memories. That is a conclusion from the entire study. So very interesting. And D is one that students sometimes pick, and I think I picked D the first time I read it. All of them are true. It's actually A. So this is what the language arts test does to you. They give you 4 really good answers. They're all true, and you have to figure out which one is just oh so slightly better. It's not fun, because you don't have the time to go through it and pick it apart. And that's why they do questions like that, because if you run out of time, you have to take the test again. And GED loves that. They love to have repeats. I know it doesn't seem fair, does it? Okay, this one's a much longer. And I'm going to show you. So it starts here. What's nice is they number the paragraphs. So if you find information that you like, you can, at least you can kind of pinpoint where it is. But I'm going to show you something. This is a lot to read. So before you read anything like that that's long, go to the questions. Right here in paragraph 1, that means for this question, we may only need paragraph 1. This one, the main idea of paragraph 4, there we go. It points us directly where to go. What's the implied main idea of paragraph 5? And then how does the information in 6 relate to 5? So we're down to only having to read 4, maybe, of the 7 paragraphs. So let's start with number 2. In paragraph 1, the author writes, wind turbine use has increased at more than 25% a year. Which main idea does this detail support? Now, because they gave you a quote, you don't have to read this. They're giving you the main ideas. They want to know which one this sentence supports. So, ancient mariners use sails to capture the wind and explore the world. Does that have anything to do with 25% more wind turbine use? Do you think ancient mariners had any concept of wind turbines? Cross that one off. Yeah, exactly. Nope. Cross off A. Farmers once used windmills to grind their grain and pump water. Does that have anything to do with wind turbines increasing? Nope. Cross off B. Now you're already down to only 2 choices. 2 choices are much better than 4. Today, more and more people are using wind turbines to wring electricity from the breeze. Does that have anything to do with wind turbine use increasing? Yes. C is the correct answer. And when you are doing the test, if you find the answer in A, B, or C, and you're comfortable with it, don't even bother reading what's left. And it's not D, it is absolutely C. Great job. This doesn't look it looks a little blurry. Let me see if I can unblur it. Oh, that's a little bit better. All right, the main idea of paragraph 4 is implied. And implied means it's not verbatim. They didn't write it in words. It's the idea of it, and you kind of have to pull that out. Which sentence best states the implied main idea? So we'll be looking at paragraph 4, and we'll be deciding if it says governments offer tax incentives, wind energy produces no pollution, operational costs are low, or wind energy is environmentally friendly. So let's look at 4. Wind is a clean source of renewable energy that produces no air or water pollution. And since the wind is free, operational costs are nearly zero once a turbine is erected. Mass production and technology advancements are making turbines cheaper, and many governments offer tax incentives to spur wind energy development. Now remember, we're looking for an implied main idea, not a verbatim. So many governments offer tax incentives to spur wind energy. They flat out said it, cross off A. Wind energy produces no water or air pollution. They flat out said it. We want something that's implied, cross off B. Operational costs of wind energy are low. Right here. They talked about it somewhere. Oh, operational costs are nearly zero. They said it, So it's not C. A, B, and C are out. It has to be D. Wind energy is environmentally friendly and relatively inexpensive. That's a main idea. The thing about main ideas is they are general, they're not specific. So when you get a question on main idea, and you'll get a million of them in both language arts and social studies, if the answers that they give you, oh, you can barely see that. I should have wrote that in pen. The answers that are really specific are not a main idea, because a main idea is kind of the overarching idea of the story. So main idea is like this. And then here are your specifics in the story. So your main idea encompasses everything in the story. Does that make sense? So no specifics for main idea. And I actually like that question because it's a really good example of when they asked for implied, and 3 of the answers were directly out of the story. And you'll get lots of main idea questions. PED loves them, even if we don't. All right. That for now. So that was C. And so far, we haven't read the whole thing. We've read 1 paragraph so far, and we've answered 2 questions. That's great. That's going to save you time. Which implied main idea do the details in paragraph 5 support? So again, these are not going to be specific. These are supposed to be implied. We're going to have to read the 5th paragraph, but let's check to see what these say first. People complain about the noise. Blades should move faster to avoid killing birds and bats. Wind energy has some negative aspects. Wind power is becoming more popular. This is going to be similar to the one we just did. Some people think wind turbines are ugly and complain about the noise the machines make. The slowly rotating blades can also kill birds and bats, but not nearly as many as cars, power lines, and high-rise buildings do. The wind is also variable. If it's not blowing, there's no electricity generated. So they talked about the noise, didn't they? They talked about the blades moving slowly and killing birds. Well, if they move faster, they're probably going to kill more. Wind energy has some negative aspects. Now, this one, they didn't say, but they did imply it, didn't they? Noisy, bird killer, variable, no wind, no energy. And then again, wind power is becoming more popular. That's true, but that's not what they're talking about here. So C, which implied main idea, wind energy has some negative aspects. So knowing that, we go into number 5. How is the information in 6 related to the information in 5? So 5 is kind of just to brush up on negative aspects. Now we're going to read 6. Nevertheless, the wind energy industry is booming. Globally, generation more than quadrupled between 2000 and 2006. Germany has the most, followed by Spain, the US, India, and Denmark. Development is also fast growing in France and China. How is the information in this paragraph we just read related to kind of the negative aspects of 5? The word nevertheless in the topic sentence contradicts the details in the previous paragraph. The details in 6 support the main idea of paragraph 5 and 6. Now, they don't share the same main idea. This is the negatives. This is the positives. So B is out. We're going to get rid of B. Nope. The details in paragraph 6 directly support. Well, that's not true either, because this is saying, oh no, it's a good thing, while this was saying, yeah, there's a couple issues with it. So C is out. That means we're going to be focusing on the word nevertheless. And D is nevertheless in the topic sentence indicates that the details do not support the main idea. Go back to the question. Are we looking for a main idea? Or are we looking for a relationship? This is not an easy question. It is A. The word nevertheless here contradicts the details. So this was, yeah, there's some issues, issue, but it's booming. So even though it's noisy, might kill birds, and no wind is no electricity, at the same time, it's growing. So see what they did there? I don't like this sentence or this problem at all. It's not really teaching you anything, but they'll throw these little red herrings in every so often. The answer was A. Ooh, huh? But look how much we didn't read. We didn't read 1, we didn't read 2, we didn't read 3. We didn't read 7. We only had to double check information on 4, 5, and 6. That saves you time. So it's great when you get questions like this that point you where to read. It's fantastic. I like those. Anything to save you time is good. All right, let's do some maps. Now, because most of us have smartphones and we have GPS in our phones, and the voice will tell you where to go if you're driving somewhere, we don't read maps like we used to. And a lot of young people have no experience with maps. It is just, it's just a changing world. But do you think GED is not going to give you a map question? Of course not. They're going to give you a map question. So let's brush up on how to read maps, what to expect, because you can totally ace questions like this. All right, so we're looking at Africa climate, Africa vegetation, 2 different maps. We have a chart or a key. These are usually called keys. And it breaks down what the different areas are by color. This one's tough. Where's the black? Oh, this little piece right here is black. This piece here is the gray blue. If you've got this in color at home, it's easier to read. If it's in black and white, this will be really hard to read. But on the test, it'll all be in really good color. All right, in these maps of Africa, you can find information about what? Look at the titles. That is a title question. Perfect. Stephanie nailed it. The titles of any of the images they give you in language arts are really important because sometimes that's your answer and you don't even have to bother with the rest. So always check the titles when they give you tables, graphs, maps, because more often than not, you'll have one question and it'll be answered just by the title. The climate of North Africa is mostly what? So we're looking at Northern Africa, which would be this part probably. The majority of it is white. So we come down here to white, desert. Let's see if they give us desert. They do. Be D. Sometimes if they wanted you to pick like the blue line, which would be Mediterranean, they would not give you the option of choosing desert. So it's always interesting when they say the climate of North Africa is, and sometimes you won't get this as an answer, so you know it's one of these two. And they will only give you one. So at least they won't try to throw you off on maps. Between desert and tropical wet and dry areas in Africa, there is always what kind of climate? So we're looking between desert, tropical wet, and dry. So we're looking between white and light blue. What shows up between white and light blue? It's light gray polka dot, even up here. And light gray polka dot, semi-arid. Hey, maps can be kind of fun. And I would suggest read the question, see if you can find what they're talking about. Just like when we did this one, when they asked the climate of North Africa is mostly, clearly it's mostly white. And so we found desert, and then we checked to see if it's got it. If it's got it, that's going to be the right answer. Same with this one. We're looking between the deserts and the tropical wet dry. And between the white and any blue is that gray polka dot, which would be semi-arid. All right, I'm going to grab some water. All right, a tropical wet and dry climate has warm temperatures all year. It also has wet and dry seasons. What type of vegetation grows naturally in this climate? Okay, so we're looking for wet and dry climate, which was the light blue areas. And now we're going to kind of superimpose those areas over here. So that light blue went along the top here with this light blue, and it was the bulk of this area. So what grows in this darker blue or this gray? Yeah, it's trees, because they didn't give you an option for the light blue, did they? That would have been, oh, wait. Wait. Did I read that wrong? What type of vegetation grows naturally in this climate? This would be trees and shrubs. Yeah, you're right. It's trees and shrubs. I was reading it incorrectly for a moment there. It happens. And you're not going for 100%. So if you mess up on a question, do not panic. We all do it, even when we know what we're talking about, still mess up. I got to drink more water. Sorry, my throat is scratchy. All right. What conclusion can you draw after comparing the two maps? Rainforests provide provide food for many species. Now, does that have anything to do with these two maps? We're looking at vegetation and climate. It doesn't really, does it? So let's look at B. South Africa has many rivers. Do they show us rivers on this map? They don't, do they? So it's not B. Climate helps determine which plants grow in a region. Well, that makes sense because we're looking at a map with the climate and a map with the vegetation. So yeah, it's going to be C. We could even, I mean, D is true, but we're comparing two maps, not one. This pertains only to that first map. Awesome. All right, this is an interesting one. Earthquakes. according to the map, in what part of the US do earthquakes occur most often? And so the blue dots are all earthquakes. The bigger the dot, the bigger the earthquake. What part of the country has the most? And sometimes maps will give you directions. This map doesn't. I'm actually a little bit surprised. So look at over here. We've got massive earthquakes in the California area, all along the West Coast. And we've got some in Oregon. I'm in Oregon, and I think, and Christine's in Oregon. We've had a couple of them. I had one recently. They've never been near as big as the ones in California, though. So the majority of earthquakes happen on the West Coast. This looks like Oklahoma. Who knew? Right in the center, they've got earthquakes. I think they get tornadoes too. That's too bad. Yuck. But yeah, the West Coast. And which would be a reasonable conclusion based only on this map? The right building material can provide protection from earthquakes. They don't talk about that at all, do they? Cross that off. Parts of California are in an earthquake zone. For sure. That's California right there. And then they drop into Mexico. Number of earthquakes in Washington state is growing. We have no idea if that's true. And earthquakes occur only in mountainous areas. Coastlines are not usually mountainous. And most of these are right on the coast. So it was B. Yeah, we have no idea if earthquakes in Washington are happening more often. I was in that earthquake in the 90s, and I was in that earthquake when I was a baby. That was a bad earthquake. That's why we live in Oregon. My parents were just like, nope, not doing this again. All right, last one. There are major tropical rainforests on which two continents? So tropical rainforests are in the blue here in Brazil, a big part of Brazil and South America, and rainforests in a part of Africa. So that means our answer is Africa and South America. That one's not bad because it's pretty clear where the blue is. There's also, ooh, look at that. There's rainforest right there. Hard to see. That's really hard to see. But that's actually blue, those islands above Australia. But they're mostly in South America and Africa. D. And the last question. Tropical rainforests are located near the equator. And they give you the equator. They even label it, which is nice. The climate is probably cool and dry, hot in the summer, cold in the winter, rainy and hot throughout the year, hot and dry year round. So this is not giving you any information about the climate in which rainforests survive. You're going to have to think about what you know about rainforests and pick the best answer. This will happen a couple of times. You will get questions where you're not sure at all. It's something that is not familiar to you. And so you just go for it. But thinking about rainforests, they tend to be very, very green and very wet and very warm. So cool and dry would not be a good area for a rainforest. Hot in the summer and cold in winter. Well, the plants in a rainforest prosper all year. So it probably doesn't have a big change in season. Rainy and hot throughout the year. Now this makes sense. Rain gives you green plants. Hot gives you tropical. So this one is your best bet. Hot and dry year round, it'd be more deserty. So when you think about tropical plants, interesting, huh? Let me switch the video. All right, how was that? You find any of that helpful?